This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. As pressure grows for Congress to pass comprehensive immigration reform, now that the government shutdown is over, we spend the hour with one of the leading people leading that fight, Democratic Representative Luis Gutiérrez of Illinois. He's been working to improve immigration policy since he won his congressional seat in the early 1990s. Most recently, he helped author a bipartisan proposal for reform in the House. The number of undocumented immigrants deported since President Obama took office is set to hit 2 million, more than under any other president. In the time since the Senate passed the immigration reform bill in July, the Department of Homeland Security has deported 100,000 people. During his weekly address, Obama called on the House to follow the Senate's lead.
We should finish the job of fixing our broken immigration system. There's already a broad coalition across America that's behind this effort, from business leaders to faith leaders to law enforcement. It would grow our economy. It would secure our borders. The Senate has already passed a bill with strong bipartisan support. Now the House should too. The majority of Americans think this is the right thing to do. It can and should get done by the end of this year.
Meanwhile, speaking on Sunday to Fox News, Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida suggested the president's handling of the government shutdown had undermined efforts at immigration reform.
So I certainly think that immigration reform is a lot harder to achieve today than it was just 3 weeks ago because of what's happened here. Again, I think the House deserves the time and space. They have their own ideas about how they want to move forward on this. Let's see what they come up with. It could very well be much better than what the Senate has done so far.
To talk more about this issue and much more, we go to Houston to speak with Congressmember Luis Gutiérrez of Illinois. He's the chair of the Immigration Task Force of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, member of the bipartisan House Gang of 7 that has been working on a broad immigration reform bill. Earlier this month, Congressmember Gutiérrez and 7 other members of Congress were arrested protesting Washington's failure on immigration. It's not the first time Gutiérrez has been arrested for civil disobedience. In 2000, he was arrested for protesting the U.S. military for using the inhabited Puerto Rican island of Vieques as a bombing range. He writes about his decades of activism, organizing, and politics in his memoir. It's just out this month, called Still Dreaming, My Journey from the Barrio to Capitol Hill. Congressmember Gutiérrez, welcome to Democracy Now! Before we talk about your life and how you came to where you are, let's talk about the latest issue, the issue of immigration. President Obama once again said he would take it up after the government reopened, but in the past you've accused President Obama of not lifting a finger on immigration reform. You, from Chicago, from his city as well.
Well, I think we missed a wonderful opportunity, the grand opportunity. We had a majority in the Senate, majority in the House of Representatives, and a freshly minted new president of the United States. I challenged Barack Obama at that time because, as you recall, when he campaigned in 2008, he said he would make it a signature issue. He said he'd get it done and sign the bill first year as president of the United States. And yet he did little or nothing to promote it. We gave up our majority in the House and weakened in the Senate, and 2 more years went by, and then we suggested to the president after he asked us. He asked me in the Oval Office, he said, Luis, put your thinking cap on. Let's figure out ways we can help immigrants now that we're in the minority in the House. We did that. Eventually the president did listen, and he issued the executive order, and there are 500,000 young immigrants across this country that no longer live in fear of deportation. They have work permits, Social Security cards, and they live among us. We want to make sure the next time they register with the government, they register on a more permanent basis. I'm happy, delighted to hear. Look, I think the President of the United States, when he has a powerful sway, obviously all he has said was we should do immigration reform again, and it captured the headlines across the country. That's the kind of power to put a spotlight, the President of the United States, and so I'm happy and delighted he's doing it. I would say that I hope that given the conflict we just went through in the Congress of the United States, a conflict in which I supported the President of the United States because I think he did the right thing. He could not negotiate away what so many of us have fought for, that is expansion of health care for American people. I'm happy and delighted he stood firm on that fight. But now it is time for him to challenge himself and to challenge the Congress, and specifically the House of Representatives. I believe he should call Speaker Boehner. I believe he should call the Republican leadership. I think he should engage them in conversations. And I mean, that's what Camp David is for. It's a place for the President of the United States to sit down with leaders and accomplish legislative goals.
Now, Luis, when you say that the president did finally agree to use his executive power to help the Dreamers in terms of deferred deportation, but even that step took quite a significant time from, as I understand it, the time you first recommended it to him and the time he finally did it. I think more than a year. Even there, you had to go on a nationwide speaking tour around the country to drum up popular pressure on the White House. Could you talk about that, the importance of that popular pressure on getting some movement on immigration reform?
Very important moment. So in December of 2010, we passed the DREAM Act in the House of Representatives. It fails to reach a cloture vote in the Senate. It's the 18th, 19th, 20th of December. President calls me and Bob Menendez, Nidia Velazquez, and another group to come to the White House. It's just before Christmas, 2 or 3 days before Christmas. And he says to us, Luis, Congressman, we can't get comprehensive immigration reform, but I want to work to protect the immigrant community during the next 2 years until I'm reelected President of the United States. We put our thinking caps up and we come up with deferred action. We say to the President of the United States, he uses discretion to make sure that certain immigrant groups aren't deported from the United States. That is to say, use your discretion as President of the United States. So we get into a battle, and all of a sudden there's actors and actresses, Eva Longoria from Desperate Housewives, on the lawn of the White House saying, well, the president doesn't have any power. The Congress has to act. He cannot do anything individually. The momentum continues to grow. The Hispanic caucus challenges the president. The Dreamers across this country challenge the president. I remember at one point at National Council of La Raza, the president is speaking to them, and the chant from the audience is, yes, you can, Mr. President. Marco Rubio, in a opportunistic move, says, well, you know what? I want to do something for the Dreamers. We say to the president and the president's staff, if Marco Rubio is going to stop the deportation and he stops short of citizenship, we think we need to stop the deportations and protect the Dreamers. We think that that should be our basic goal at this particular point. And then the president of the United States, 4 months before the election, signs an executive order. And today there are 500,000. I have never been more thankful to the president of the United States than when he took that action. But we should remember that for a year and a half, the president of the United States, in every venue that he created venues. He created one in El Paso, another one in Florida, in which he specifically said, I cannot take any action. In the end, he took the action. He said he did not have the ability to carry out, and we had a triumph because of the consistent and persistent effort of our community.
And as Juan wrote in his column in the New York Daily News, that we're about to pass this horrid landmark, I think that's how you put it, Juan, of 2 million deportations under President Obama. Your thoughts on that, Congressman Gutierrez?
Well, number one, look, President Barack Obama, history, his tenure as President of the United States is going to be marked by one of two things. Being the President of the United States that's deported more people than anyone else. I mean, at the rate he's going, we don't do comprehensive immigration reform. It has a devastating continuing effect on our community, and it means he will deport over 3.5 million people. Pretty soon the banner headline is going to be somewhere that he's reached the 2 million goal. I want a President of the United States that signs a comprehensive immigration bill for 2 reasons. Number one, it stops the deportation, and it brings justice, and it brings fairness, and it brings equity to the immigrant community. And number two, secondly, not as important, but important, I want Barack Obama to be known as the president that led us to 11 million people reaching freedom in this country.
We're talking to Congressmember Luis Gutiérrez. When we come back from break, we're going to go back 30 years to the night when a Molotov cocktail was thrown through his window. He opens his book, Still Dreaming, My Journey from the Barrio to Capitol Hill, with that incident. And we'll talk about his years of activism from Chicago to Puerto Rico. Stay with us.